Man, I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure for sure. I'm excited to get into it.
If you want to, I guess, start things out for this podcast, to introduce yourself a little bit, kind of tell us about you, who you are, where you're from, that kind of deal, that'd be good.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Daniel Yores. I'm a personal trainer, strength coach. I live in Toronto, Canada. I grew up just a little bit outside the city, just a little north of here. And I work primarily with general population clients, some athletes here and there, to improve health and wellness and strength and fat loss, muscle gain, whatever kind of people are looking for. And I've started a podcast recently and sharing things online as we all kind of are now given COVID. And so I'm trying to just kind of spread the message through there and reach as many people as possible, starting to build slowly. And I had a very athletic kind of upbringing, and that was the very brief intro of how I got into kind of all of these things.
What sports did you play?
I played a little bit of everything, but soccer was the thing that I kind of like focused in on and actually trained hard at and progressed at and got to a decently high level. I wouldn't say I was ever, going pro or anything, but there were a bunch of guys that I played with and played against that have gone on to play professionally and for the national team and whatnot.
Was that something that you kind of like personally you spotlighted and you really found that soccer was something you loved, or was it kind of like, I'm going to do all this stuff and then soccer, hey, I'm the best at it, so I'll just kind of keep doing it?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I was exposed to a lot of different sports. So played hockey as any good Canadian boy would, and played soccer. Did swimming lessons, played basketball and tennis and kind of everything. And soccer was sort of the one that I guess excelled at, but I wouldn't even say that I really excelled at it because I wasn't, and to this day, like not really a natural athlete where things kind of came easy to me. I just worked my butt off and got better. And it kind of came to a point just legit for my parents. Okay, you gotta choose one because you're doing too many different things. And I've got two younger brothers as well, and they're doing all different things. And it's like we can't be at four places at once every day of the week. And so I think I was like 12 or 13, 14, something like that, where I just said, okay, I'll keep playing the other ones, but at a very like lower level, more or less just with my friends and the school team and stuff like that. And soccer was what I was going to focus on. And then when I did that, then that's when I started actually getting better and became one of the better players on my team and in the community and whatnot.
During that time, did you incorporate any like strength conditioning into your soccer?
I mean, not on my own so much, but with the team, yeah, we did. So we did some strength and conditioning stuff. I mean, very very simple, rudimentary things. I had great coaches, but none of them were trainers or strength coaches or anything like that. So looking back on it, it's like, yeah, we obviously could have done things way better, but running laps, doing push-ups, something that really helped me. I got injured a lot playing soccer. I had a lot of knee injuries and a whole series of these. And while I was injured, I would go to physio or whatever, go to my rehab stuff, and then I would still go to training with the team, and I would just do like push-ups and sit-ups and squats and stuff kind of on the side and do like my own little workout during practice just to stay with the team.
It's interesting to hear, everybody's experience with sports is so different. You have some people who are just naturally gifted, some people who work hard, some people are just in there to have some fun. And, a lot of people I've talked to, with their strength conditioning and in like high school, it's so crazy to hear about the different kind of levels of strength
I
conditioning.
think that's actually one of the biggest differences between Canadian and American schools is like having a dedicated strength coach at your high school or anything like that. It doesn't exist here. There are some like sports specialist kind of private schools that might have that, but in the regular kind of public school system that everyone goes to, that doesn't exist. In my high school, there was a weight room in the school, and the only purpose that it served was that maybe the guys on the wrestling team used it. I wasn't one of them, so I don't really know. And the wrestling team was very small, anyways. The other way it was used was in I think grade 11 or 12. There was like the gym class. One chapter of the class or one part of the curriculum was strength training, and so that class would use the weight room for that. And then the other way the weight room was used was as a punishment. Like if you had so many absences in your gym class, then you had to go make them up in the mornings before school and go lift at the gym and sign your name as like to avoid attendance.
Being so close, it's funny that that's something that isn't kind of similar. It's just, we're right there. You think things would be pretty similar in that aspect, especially with sports, like hockey, that are so physical. You think it would be, more of a thing that would be important to developing those athletes, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the other side of that is that here in Canada, our school sports teams are not really, that's kind of like the fun thing that people do on the side. But there are club teams, the club hockey teams, soccer teams, basketball, whatever. That's where the real, that's where the real talent is. That's where your real team is. And with those teams, you will seek out, or the coaches and whatever will seek out strength and conditioning to do with that team. But our school teams are kind of like, it's just the joke thing that everyone kind of does for fun. It's not really taken very seriously at all. The coaches are just teachers who happen to have a little spare time after school to, coach the team, run a practice. Like, so it's not really, so I think that's why that it's not really embedded, but there certainly is like strength and conditioning in youth sports, just not within the school system.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's really interesting to hear too, because I think it's getting away here in America. It's getting away from the schools being kind of like the dominant thing. There's tons of clubs and travels and all that stuff that go on, but still, it's you hear, I don't know if you do in Canada, but you hear about like Texas football, like is so big. The whole community comes out and supports the team. The town shuts down for Friday nights and things like that. And, basketball is pretty big here in Kentucky. Like it's interesting because, it is still so prevalent. And maybe it's just the smaller communities that it's actually still more prevalent in. And that's just kind of the thing, to where the bigger communities, the bigger cities do have, people have access to the kind of the club teams, the travel teams, and, just more access to that. But yeah, it is kind of, I would say, maybe trending in that same direction.
Yeah, it probably comes down to just I guess funding and how all these things work out, right? It's like in the smaller communities, the schools just have more funding. There's not as much access to resources, whether that be like actual money or fields and arenas and what those things. Whereas in the schools, do have the best things just through the government funding or however it's dealt with. Um, and so yeah, so I mean, we have good training here. It's just not within the school system. But I think that is something that it would be beneficial if it did, because it would just expose more people to it. Like the way we have it here is you have to take gym one time in high school, gym class, PE, whatever you want to call it. And then after that, you're not forced or really pushed to engage in any sort of physical education after that. Now, a lot of people do, because some people think it because it's just an easy class. They'd rather do gym than, a philosophy class or English class or well, I guess you have to do English, but, other electives. Um, and so they're just not exposed to it. And so it's not part of the whole. A lot of high schools don't even have a football team. My high school didn't have a football team. We didn't have track. We didn't have basketball. And so we don't rally around like our communities in that. Almost even goes into our university and college system as well. The university that I went to, the men's soccer well, the women's soccer program too, but the soccer program was very, very good, one of the best in the country. And they were, while I was there, they won the national tournament or national championship back to back years. And the second year that they won it, the national championship was hosted at our school. And so you'd think that a team going for, the repeat or the defending champs, defending the championship at home, there would be quite a big crowd. And the stadium, not even that it's a big stadium, but it was like 25% full. There was maybe 300 people there. And it's kind of disappointing.
And that's just so crazy. Do you find that, I mean, there has been some big names in American, primarily American sports come to America from Canada. Do you just, is that why, that's just not as important in Canada?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, our development system here is good, but the states is where the money is and where the big development is. Like we don't have, there's Canadian schools don't participate in the NCAA, obviously, right? And so that's where the most exposure is and the most money is and the best coaching and all that stuff, just because it all kind of follows the money, right? And so kind of get out of here. Now the escape to that, or the other side of that, is hockey, where we do have a very good program. The OHL is one of the better or the best, if not development programs outside of the college system, whereas the college system is not necessarily the best because players don't really get drafted to the NHL from the NCAA. And so players will come to Ontario or to Canada. I guess it just, the best players want to go to the best league. And so you can't really blame anybody for that. And that's across all sports.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about, your podcast, why you started it up and when you started it up.
Sure. So I started the podcast it's been almost 2 months now. And the reason that I started it was last summer, whatnot, I started sharing stuff on Instagram, professionally, quote unquote, as like a fitness professional. And I quickly realized that Instagram is great, it's fun, but it's not the best way to deliver useful information in any type of long form. So, I can put an Instagram post that's really great talking about nutrition or why you should exercise or squat mechanics or like any of these things. And whether or not someone sees it, if they see it in that moment, if they happen to be on Instagram when I post it, then great. If I post it at noon and they don't check their phone till 5 or 6 p.m., then they might never see it and then it's just gone. They'll never find it again. So with the podcast, I thought, okay, well, I like to talk. I can talk a lot. And this is a better way to just deliver this long form of content where people can always come back to it and I can go into a little bit more depth. The other thing about Instagram is like, it's limited by the character limits and the time limits and whatnot. So I can only say so much, and there's so much nuance, as you would know, to so many of these things where you always get the, well, what about this? What about this? And you can't possibly answer all of the things. And so a podcast you can. And I just like talking. I like talking to people. And so I thought, ooh, what a great way to sort of continue to reach more people and help in a better way. It's almost hard to sometimes think about what to say. And what I mean by that is like, someone who is a coach or a trainer or a doctor of some sort, like we all know the things that we know, and it's sometimes difficult to imagine what other people don't know, because I know all this stuff, and so it seems sometimes quite obvious to me, and then I have to always put myself in someone else's shoes and realize, oh, they don't know that, and it's not their fault, but they don't know that, and so they need to be told, even though it's very obvious and second nature to myself. And I think having these conversations too, one of the other things that I realize is like, I'll call a friend or a colleague of some sort, and we'll have a great conversation, and then it's like, well, this conversation has a lot of value, like we said a lot of good things, like what if we just shared this? And that's how informal but also helpful a podcast can be. So I think it's a fantastic medium.
What made you want to actually like share and teach and help other people in the world of fitness?
So I've always thought that, what I do mainly now is personal training. So I'm with one person at a time. And that's great. And I love it. And the connection is amazing. And I'm able to really help those people that I work with and whatnot. But I very quickly realized that I'm limited by the number of hours in the day. So if I can, train 10, 12 people in a day, which is a lot, but, that's good. And I can make a big impact in those 12 people's lives. But again, there's a hell of a lot of people in the world. And so how can I sort of like help more people and still help the people that I am helping, not ignore them, but how can I also reach more people? And so it's at a lesser level, of course, because I'm not with them, telling them exactly everything that they should or could be doing, but it's just a better way to reach more people and help out more. Now, I've always been involved in coaching and sort of giving back. And so I think it's always something that I was going to do no matter what the kind of the field was. And so it's just something that I enjoy, in helping people and kind of getting those messages or that realization from someone that says, oh, like that really helped, or this thing that you told me really changed my life, or it helped me to sleep better, or whatever the case is. And so just that good feeling of feeling like I'm helping, and this is what I'm offering back to the world, and this is the value that I'm providing to the world, is something that really kind of just that's kind of what it all means to me. And I use big words like the world. I mean, my following is not very big. I'm not impacting the world, but like, slowly but surely, it's kind of like, you make your mark, you help one person, they help one person. And so, you start this chain of helping people. And that's kind of, I think how we kind of all make a little bit of a difference to leave our mark on the world. There's so many different ways to do it, of course, right? And everyone's got their thing. Some people are great on video. Some people are great at photos. Some people are great writers. Some people are great, at different ways of sharing information. Like, one of the beauties of the internet is that we have so many different ways to share information. So you can try a bunch of things and find what you're good at, and whatever it is that your best way to deliver whatever information it is you have. And this can be fitness related, but it can also be anything. It can be, financial help. It can be, whatever field you're in, and you can deliver your information in that way, and somebody will connect with it. Because the same way that people are good at delivering information, other people are good at receiving information. So someone might be really good at listening to a podcast, and that's a way that they learn. Someone might need to see a video. Somebody might need you to be there with them in person and touch them and move them and whatnot. Some people might need to read it, et cetera, et cetera. And so we have all these tools. And as much as I talk about, like, there's a lot of people out there who don't know what they're doing and they're spreading bad information, there's also a lot of people out there who are doing very good work and spreading good information. And we just haven't, the way that these, social media and the internet works is, it's harder to blow up when you're one of those people. And so they're kind of sort of quieter, but they are making, I think, a bigger, more lasting impact in the world, or in their community at least.
What motivates you to continue to train and continue to eat healthy and do all these things?
This is there's a few parts to this for sure. So I experienced a quite like I mentioned before, quite a few knee injuries, and it culminated in this surgery where I basically wasn't, to save a long story, I wasn't able to walk for like 3 and a bit months after the surgery and part as part of the recovery. And so in that time, to sort of make this a little more dramatic, I very quickly realized that like being able to move is something that we kind of take for granted. So I wasn't able to walk. I couldn't put my foot on the ground. I couldn't do anything by myself. And now it's like, well, I can do these things, so I have to do them. I don't have to strength train. I don't have to squat super heavy, but I enjoy doing those things, so I will do them. But if I loved running or rock climbing or whatever other physical activity, then I would do that as well. So part of it is like move because you can, because you have the ability to do so. And one day, for some fault of your own or not, you may not have the ability to do it, and you'll wish nothing more than to be able to do it. So that's part of it. The other part of it is like, just through my education and through my, experiences and whatnot, is I realized how important this is to living a full life. I can't experience the full range of things that life has to. If a friend says, "Oh, let's go hike up this trail," and I'm like, "Oh, well, my knee and my back," and what a shame that would be. So to be able to just experience life to the fullest, I think that we need to take care of our bodies, because it's so cliche to say, but we've only got one, and it's very important to kind of take care of this. And then on top of all of that, better. Everything happens better for me in my life when I'm exercising, when I'm eating healthy, when I'm sleeping well, when I'm drinking enough water, and all these good things that we should be doing. And so when I'm not doing those things, things don't go well, and it's very obvious what I need to be doing. And then I do those things and I feel better. So why would I not do something that makes me feel better, that has really no negative repercussions, that I enjoy doing anyways? And that's kind of how I think about what motivates me. Now, in the interim, I do set smaller goals. So I want to gain a little bit of muscle mass. I want to cut a little bit of body fat, and kind of just these like small little milestones along the way, just to keep it training a little bit more interesting, rather than just going to the gym for the sake of going to the gym, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I like to apply a little bit of intensity to me, and maybe this will change as I get older, and maybe that's just the former athlete in me who wants to like aim at something. But applying those little goals and those like kind of small external motivation things really helps just to stay consistent and keep up with things as well.
When you're younger, I think it's harder to see that for yourself, but if you just look around, you can appreciate it from other people as well. See what limitations other people have and see where other people maybe can't do what you have the potential to do. So that's kind of in the same way, but kind of in a roundabout way, the same way I see it is it's kind of like, oh, this person, lost an arm and I can't imagine not being able to do this, or, not being able to deadlift, like just something simple to become stronger to. And, there's certainly ways around that kind of thing, but whatever it may be, it's like you're appreciating your opportunity and understanding. But from the perspective of just doing it kind of because it's something you enjoy, do you think that's something that everybody can get to? Or do you think that some people are just going to enjoy it while some people are just going to do it because they may understand the benefits of it?
That's a really good question, actually. I think that not everyone will love going to the gym and lifting weights and strength training in that manner. I'm of the mind that people should do that or incorporate it to some degree, but I don't think that everyone will love that, and that's okay. But I am confident that there is some activity out there that everybody will enjoy, and it's just about finding it. And it could be something so obscure, something that you may have never thought of, that's not like readily available in your community or in your circle of friends, that you can find, but you've just got to try a bunch of different things until you like it. The other side of that is I think that at some point there's sort of a balance between having fun and enjoying it, and then just enjoying the benefits of it. Every single thing that we do in our life doesn't have to be like so much fun and so amazing, but if we get something good out of it, then it's kind of worth it, as long as you don't absolutely hate it. If you really don't like exercise, but that your body feels better after you lift weights 3 times a week, then you may bite the bullet for those 3 hours a week, and you'll feel better, and therefore the trade-off of the time and the dislike of working out is worth it, sort of thing. So yeah, it's kind of a tricky one. I mean, I think there's something out there for everyone, and we just got to keep trying things until we find that thing. But I can't imagine that it's it's always going to be worth it in some way.
And I think that's part of it too, is just trying to help people see the benefits and getting them to actually physically see the benefits or feel the benefits too. Education, and then really getting someone to do it for a while, and then they see something. So I think that's a big part where, a trainer comes in or a coach comes in to play, because that period of time, it could be different for everybody, a month, 2 months, that somebody's willing to give it a shot. Don't waste that time just doing something because you think that it's good. Get somebody or get some information before you go in that's going to push you to those benefits. So it's kind of becoming something, like you said, to where you're enjoying the benefits of it. But if you don't, spend your time wisely and you don't see those benefits, it may cause you to kind of drop out of it. It's not worth it. It's not fun. And I'm also not seeing the benefits of it.
Exactly. And everyone has to come and realize this on their own. This is not new information that, one should be exercising and eating healthy. Like, we all know these things. This is not, this is not really news to anybody, but for some reason we don't all do it all the time. And so, I can sit here, we can sit here to our blue in the face and keep telling people, hey, go outside, exercise, lift weights, eat healthy, blah, blah. And, you might not listen to it. It might not resonate with you. And that's okay. But you have to realize it for yourself. And so it's kind of like, well, just try it for 2 weeks. Like, it's not, you're not going to have this life-changing experience the first time you exercise, but try it for 2 weeks, try it for a month, like, give it some time, and then give it like a fair evaluation. But like, the person has to for themselves, because that's the only way that it'll stick.
Have you found that motivation wise, and you may not use it, but do you feel that maybe like fearful education is sometimes more beneficial than like beneficial education? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you need to exercise because this could happen, versus you need to exercise, or if you exercise, this benefit will happen. Do you feel like one's more effective, or is it just a person?
Yeah, it's highly dependent on the individual. Some people will shut down if you say like, oh, if you, just example here, like, if you don't exercise, you're gonna die of a heart attack, something, whatever, right? Something extreme is like, well, that might get someone excited. Maybe they had some life experience where someone they know or someone in their family had a heart attack, and so like, oh, if doing this thing will lead me to not have that, then maybe I'll do it. But other people are like, yeah, whatever, like, I know that already, but I'm still not doing it. And so I think that, like, kind of fearful, that reverse motivation, it's just highly individualized. I think for most people, it might help someone start, but I don't think it's really gonna help someone continue and stick with it long term. I'm of the opinion that we need to do things from a place of positivity. So if I'm exercising to try and avoid something else, then that exercise serves as some sort of like negative punishment, or I'm trying to avoid something. Instead, if I frame exercise as something that is going to help me, then I'm much more likely to continue to do it, and I'll think about it positively. I won't, hate it. I won't be just have a general negative attitude towards it. You want to avoid that. So I think trying to frame things positively in the long run is definitely good, but having that negative motivation to start, it might just get someone off the couch. And so in that case, it may help. But yeah, it's a tricky one, very individualized.
It's weird because I think like when you have a specific goal, that too can kind of help push you in that positive direction. You say, I want to be able to do something by this day, and then continue to move it in that direction. But I think that can help kind of keep it positive, instead of just like you said, being being fearful. It's almost like you're running from death instead of chasing a goal.
Exactly. One thought on this that I've had a lot over the past while is like the concept of people who want to exercise and their main goal for exercise is fat loss. I think this kind of goes around the same sort of logic and motivation, where when you're exercising and your only goal is fat loss, that is still it's still a negative motivation. You're trying to reduce something, you're trying to take something away, you're trying to fix, quote unquote, some problem, which in your mind is your weight or body image or whatever. And so I don't think that that's necessarily a strong enough thing. And I think it makes exercise negative in your life. Now, it also is way harder because, you're so consumed by the amount of food that you're eating, and I need to do this exercise, and exercise is punishment. I had a donut, so I need to go on the treadmill for X hours and whatever. Whereas in my experience, when I attempt to help shift clients, their mindset to like, well, yeah, the weight loss may come, but focus on you getting really strong, or getting your first chin up, or whatever, some type of like performance kind of strength goal. The weight loss also happens. It's just that they're having fun and enjoying it the whole time, and then that's what makes it more sustainable, rather than this constant focus on some negative thing like losing weight just because we're losing and taking away. So I think the positive motivation is always, always, always more powerful than any negative motivation over the long run.
You really do have to be there at a very mental, very psychological level for your client or for even yourself a lot of times. Because even if you understand these principles and these things that you tell other people, it can sometimes be a struggle for yourself to do the same exact things that you know are right. I enjoy it and I share it, but even then I struggle. So I can't imagine someone who doesn't enjoy it, I can't imagine their struggle with it. That must be just insane.
Yeah, it must be tough, and I think that's one of the more difficult things about being a coach or being in this industry is like it's hard to sometimes meet people where they are, and you get better at this as you go along with it. But sometimes in the beginning, it's hard to meet people where they are, because you think about like, well, I just do this and I just do it. Why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? And you have to realize that people don't have the same experiences, the same knowledge, the same information, education, whatever that you do. And so you have to again meet them where they are, and then build from there. And nobody's perfect, no coach is perfect. Like I've never met a fitness person who's like, oh, I've never eaten pizza, or I exercise every single day, I never skip a workout. Like that doesn't exist. Maybe someone who's preparing for a bodybuilding competition or a professional athlete, maybe. But other than that, like we're all just humans, we're all regular people. It's helped me connect with some of my clients, when they realize that, oh hey, like you're just a regular person, like you also eat pizza, like, oh, I didn't know that. Or people will say often like, how do you never eat junk food? And it's like, well, hold on a second, I never said that I never eat junk food. I probably enjoy it way more than you do. I'm just a little bit more self-disciplined about it, and I have it less frequently, but when I have it, I enjoy the hell out of it. And but anyways, connecting with people and showing them that like, hey, like I'm a regular person, I have these things too. It's sort of almost, it feels like it takes pressure off of them to say like what they're doing is okay, and they're not going to be perfect because I'm not perfect, and look what I've achieved, quote unquote. And so I think just making that more human connection really goes a long way as this like coach client or coach teacher student kind of relationship. One thing that I always say is like fitness and health, it should be something that adds to your life. The second it becomes something that starts taking away from you, the second you start, I didn't, sleep exactly the perfect amount, or I didn't drink exactly the perfect amount of water. The second it becomes something that's like consuming you've gone too far the other way. Unless you're a professional athlete competing at something, whatever, it's a different thing. Like performance is a different thing from health. But excited to eat healthy. You should be excited to do your workouts overall, not every single aspect of it, but 51% excited at least to keep doing it.
Something that I found interesting about you and about your Instagram page was the philosophy side to it. Is that something you've always been interested in, or did that come along at a certain point and you were just like, oh, this kind of changed the way I think?
I think it's kind of something that I've always dabbled in a little bit and got more into it in the past like several 3 to 4 years. Um, my family's background is Greek and Italian, and so all the famous philosophers are ancient Greeks and ancient Romans and whatnot. So I kind of like as a kid, I've always liked that ancient history sort of stuff and whatnot. So I guess that kind of like introduced me to it and kind of followed there. And then as I got a little bit older, I started realizing like, oh, this stuff is like it's pretty powerful. Like these old dudes, 2000 whatever years ago, like they said some stuff that's like still the same today. Like how did they, what's going on here? And so I just started reading more into it, and this connection between like the past and now is mind blowing to me. Like I posted something, I think it was yesterday, and he was talking about it was I can't recall the quote now, but it was talking about how people do things for others instead of like trying to make themselves happy. And I was like, wow, this is what social media is today. This is people, everyone's living to try and impress some stranger on the internet. But he said this 2000 years ago, social media wasn't a thing. And so it's like, how have humans really changed that much? It's very curious to me. The other side of it is that as I got older, I started, or in the past little while, I started looking at some more philosophy stuff from other parts of the world as opposed to just Western philosophy. And then again, mind blowing is like it's all the same. They use different words, they may use different like analogies and whatnot, but the messaging is all the same. And then so it's amazing to me that these people who lived worlds away from each other, who never communicated, had no way of like knowing about each other and all this stuff, we're figuring out the same stuff about life, our life overall. It's just something that's just very, very fascinating to me, and I got definitely more into it again during COVID. It's just more time, and okay, well, let me dig into this stuff a little bit deeper, and see what I can learn about myself, and then help to pass on to others. So it's quite fascinating for me, not for everyone obviously, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's really cool to just to see the human experience and how it's so similar, whether you're in a first world country in 2021 or living in China in 1500 or whatever it is. It's just cool to really like level the playing field in that way, because regardless of technology or money or you know a lot of times your education, it's just we're so similar. And like you said, even back then when people didn't know, like, oh, this person's kind of saying the same thing as me, but they're in Asia and I'm in Europe.
For sure, and I think it helps us to think about what it is that we're doing in life. So many of us, we kind of just go through, and not to go too off the rails here, but we just go through life, and people are just going through the motions: wake up, go to work, go to my job, clock out at 5 o'clock, come home, have a drink, eat on the couch, watch Netflix, whatever, and just kind of repeat, rinse and repeat, day after day after day. And well, when do we ever stop and think about, like, what are we even doing here? Why is, how do I think about my own life? And so I think that there's a quote, I believe it's Socrates or Aristotle, one of them, and they say the unexamined life is not worth living. And I think that that's a fantastic one. Like, we need to be thinking about what we're doing. Do things with your eyes open. Like, you can do nothing. You can sit down on the couch and watch TV, but do it with an intention. Do it with your eyes open and have some purpose to what you're doing. Otherwise, what are we doing here? We're just kind of spending days and not making anything happen. My biggest thing, my overarching theme of kind of everything that I say and my podcast as well, is like, fitness is, it's just a metaphor for the rest of everything that we do in life. And so, where does all this philosophy and life talk, what does that have anything to do with fitness? Well, if you don't examine what you're doing with your fitness, how are you going to improve? Right? If you just do nothing and then you don't improve, and then you question, well, why am I not improving? Why am I not losing weight? Why am I not getting healthier? Well, you got to think about it. And so you have to, like, do some self work, and whether that be meditation or education or whatever it is, to figure out what you're doing and examine your life. Then you need to do that work in order to make something happen that you want to happen. And so I think that all the things that we learn in the gym and through fitness and all these things, it's just a sort of like it's a controlled environment, a microcosm for the macrocosm of everything else that we're doing in our life. And I think that using the philosophical quotes, they're just another way to connect with people. For me, they're posts that I really like making and really like thinking about. They're not posts that are particularly well performing kind of thing, because a lot but for some people, it's like it really helps them, and they connect with it on that level. And so for those people, I like it. I still like doing it myself. And it just goes back to what we were saying earlier about, it's just another way to sort of bridge the gap between all of these things, to maybe that one thing I say that has actually nothing to do with fitness is going to be the thing that helps someone get on their exercise game or start eating healthy, because they heard something that was about some other aspect of life that I made that connection for them.
You kind of you touched on it, at least, about about the lessons kind of learned a little bit. What lessons or what have you learned along the way in the world of fitness and kind of living a healthier lifestyle? Have you learned and have you kind of translated into just day-to-day life?
The biggest thing, and the most important and actionable thing, is that consistency is the most important thing of all. Like, the secret to getting strong in the gym is working out for a long time, and not like a long time for one day. But there was a quote by Charles Poliquin, who is late, very famous, influential strength coach. And someone asked him in a podcast or some interview, they said, what's the secret to getting a big squat? And he said, oh, no problem. That's easy. Squat heavy once a week for 10 years in a row, and you'll have a big squat. And I laughed so hard at that when I heard it. But then I was like, well, like, he's not wrong. Like, there's obviously, a lot of other technical things if you're being competitive, but the biggest thing is consistency. If you want to achieve any type of fitness goal, you're not going to achieve, there's no shortcuts. There may be ways that can kind of sort of speed things up for a short period of time, but overall, it's just about being consistent. And I think that that translates so much into the everything else we do in life. It's like, we talk about your business or social media or anything else you're trying to do. If you do it once, that's great. Anybody can do anything one time. Anybody can do anything for a month. But can you do it for a year? Can you do it for 10 years? And I'm not, I'm 26. I'm not that old. I haven't been around that long to say I've been doing something for like 30 years. But I imagine that over time, you keep doing something, you keep doing it, you keep putting out Instagram posts, you keep working on your business, you keep eating healthy, you keep eating or sleeping well, and do it again, 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 again. And you're going to get those results. Then all the results that I've ever gotten in the gym, they didn't come from one workout. They came from, excuse me, they came from systematically implementing things that I knew were working and discarding the things that weren't working, and then just doing it again and again and again and again and again and being patient with it until those results came. And then what happens when those results come is you can't just stop. You have to keep doing it. Otherwise, it's going to go away. So learning that in the gym, which is I've learned that lesson multiple times over for different reasons in the gym. And it's like, the gym it's a very controlled environment. So if I, stop working out, then my muscle goes away or my strength goes down or whatever. It's like, okay, in the grand scheme of my life, that is not that big of a detriment to me. But what if you stop working and then you lose your income, or your family relationship breaks down, or some other like real life problem happens to you? You can't just give up and stop. You have to just consistently keep going. And it doesn't have to be perfect all the time, but there has to be some output every day, every month, every year to keep getting the things that you want to get out of whatever it is in life.
And that's a very interesting, because that's like been the consistency has been my focus. You learn these things and sometimes you have to relearn them. Sometimes you get multiple experiences with the same lesson and until it really becomes ingrained. And I guess that, hearing it though was different. It just like it hit me different, and it definitely makes me more aware of it now. The consistency really is, it's everything. And, obviously like putting in good work over that consistent time period.
Exactly. And I mean, that kind of stuff is okay too. Like you can go hard for 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever, but then if you stop after that, you don't have to keep up that same level of output either. That's another kind of the other side of this. There are times to like go hard and be like super serious about your training and your fitness and your nutrition, and there are times to just sort of coast and get by. And both of those things are okay. My sort of like overarching philosophy of this is like, go hard when you can. When you know that you have the time and the bandwidth to be able to like train your butt off, then do that, because something is going to happen in life. We've seen COVID and the way things happen with the gyms and still happening here in Toronto. And who it could be anything that happens in your life that prevents you from being able to do that. And so it doesn't mean stop altogether at that time, but instead of training 6 days a week super hard, maybe you train twice a week at like 50% of your capacity, and that's okay. But it's consistency over like a long period of time. And so over the the course of your life, you're just getting by. And so there's going to be periods of where it's super high, super low, but in the end, it all kind of balances out. And that's, I think, the missing key for a lot of people is that they can either go super hard or not at all. And it's not about going not at all. It's about going, 25%. Like just give me the bare minimum at least, but it has to be greater than zero. It's certainly not easy. These things, they're easy words to say and they're easy words to comprehend, but to actually take action on it and do it it's really difficult. And I feel for people, but the way you have to do it is start with a small goal that you can actually maintain. Instead of trying to get to the gym 6 days a week and eat exactly perfect all the time, like go to the gym once. If you know that 100% you can commit to that, go to the gym once a week or exercise once a week. And then if you get two exercise sessions in that week, then that's great. That's a bonus. But you're not going to, be down on yourself about not getting 6, because you hit your one, you committed to that, you did it, and then slowly like build that up over time, and then you can get to wherever you can get to. But it's just about taking those first small steps and climbing from there.
In your opinion, and it's so different for everybody, but just as a general statement, like if somebody says I can only go to the gym once a week, what would be your recommendation for them to get the most out of that session? Maybe they have an hour.
Well, at one time a week for 1 hour, it is unlikely, unless you are a total beginner, and even then, it's unlikely that you're going to make massive, significant forward progress at anything. So at that level, you have to be realistic with what your goal is, which your goal at that point would be to avoid any decline, essentially, just maintain what you got. And so, in order to do that with that hour, you would have to get in big compound lifts, so lifts that are using the most amount of muscle or more joints, so that you can kind of hit all areas of the body within that one session, just to sort of touch on everything and make sure that everything's moving properly. So you take kind of the four big movement patterns: some type of squat, some type of hinge or hip dominant movement, a type of press, and then a type of a pulling motion. And if you mix those four in, maybe a core exercise and maybe some type of loaded carry, like a farmer's carry or something of the sort, that would be probably the biggest bang for your buck, because you're at least covering all areas of the body. Nothing is being overly neglected. I mean, you're just basically trying to not decline at that point. But I think the very important part of that is being realistic about what you can achieve. You can't say that you're going to go in the gym once a week and become Mr. Olympia. It's just not going to happen. So adjust your goals to what you're actually able to do. But again, more technical side of that answer is just get a full body workout, hit all the areas of the body, lift moderately heavy, somewhere like 8 to 10, 12 rep range. So you're putting a little bit of force through your body, but not pushing it so hard that you're going to injure yourself in that one session. And just make sure you kind of cover all your bases with that.
It sounds pretty good, man. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. I always say, like, as a coach, as a personal trainer, we are not we can be technicians in terms of like, do XYZ exercises this exact way, eat these foods, blah, blah, blah. But really, we're in the relationship business. We are in the business of making people feel good and making people trust us, and then they can listen to what they have to say. Nobody will care what you have to say or do what you're coaching if they don't connect with you and believe in you as a person. So until that stuff happens, the rest almost doesn't even matter.
I think the podcasting, the long form stuff really brings that home, and getting to know somebody and hearing more of the why that they care is important.
For sure. I love it. And you're doing a great job with these podcasts as well. I mean, definitely keep it up. It's just so important. And the more good people we have kind of sharing these things, the more good we're all going to do in the world. So definitely kudos to you on that as well, and being a great host for these things.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. And if you want to share your information and how people can find you and how people can find your podcast, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So again, my name is Daniel Yores, DanielYores, and that's just my Instagram handle at Daniel Yores. And then my podcast is super creatively called the Daniel Yores Podcast as well. So find that wherever you can, and follow me on Instagram, say hello and whatnot, and love to connect with you and hear from you there.
Once again, thanks for coming on and sharing today.
Yeah, man, this was awesome. A really, really fun time. I really appreciate you having me on.